Good morning, Year 6. I hope you're all well and are ready for another day of writing. Well done for making such a fantastic start to our new unit on complaint letters yesterday. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with today. First, I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see who we're complaining to in today's lesson. Now, as you can see, our objective today is to establish a formal tone. My turn. Formal tone. A formal tone, as we discussed yesterday, means writing in standard English without the slang and without any abbreviations where possible. To remind you, here is the structure for writing a complaint letter. We always begin with a formal greeting, followed by our reason for writing. Then we provide some background information or some context, which is usually how we stumbled upon the problem. The most important part, perhaps, is to detail the problem. So exactly the issues why we are complaining, or exactly the issues we're complaining about rather, and the consequences of those issues. So how have you suffered as a result of what you're complaining about? Then penultimately, we need to think about what we'd like to happen. What would a better outcome be? Perhaps we can even make suggestions to the person we're complaining to about how to improve their service or their product. We may even ask for compensation in some situations. And finally, we will leave with a really formal closing remark. Now, do you recognise these? Have a think. You may have seen them before, or you may recognise the name on the logo. These are Canada Goose jackets. They are a really popular jacket, particularly in wintertime, because they're known for keeping you incredibly warm. Some of you may have these jackets, or some of you may know people who have these jackets, and certainly they do look very fashionable. And it's important to remember that in today's lesson, even if you do have one of these jackets, this is no way a judgment against you or indeed anyone who else has this jacket. However, we are going to be writing to Canada Goose headquarters, and we are going to be complaining to them. And our complaint is going to be based on an issue that has been in the news recently. Let's have a look at what that issue is. You can see here a picture of a coyote and of a duck. And both of them say, well, one of them says, I'm a living bean, not a piece of fur trim. Boycott Canada Goose. Please pause your video now and write today's date, which is Tuesday the 3rd of March. In fact, I've made a mistake. It's Tuesday the 2nd of March, so let me just correct that now. And our learning objective, or our WALT, which is to establish a formal tone. Welcome back. You've now written your date and WALT and we're ready to begin. Now, as I alluded to at the beginning of the video, we are writing a letter to Canada Goose headquarters, or to the Chief Executive of Canada Goose, and we are trying to persuade them to not sell Canada Goose coats that contain fur where the animal has been killed in an inhumane way. So, let's begin with a formal greeting. To greet somebody formally, you could either start with dear or to whom it may concern. I'm going to begin with to whom it may concern, because I don't know the name of the person I'm writing to, and I'm not quite sure who the complaint will be picked up by. If you know that the Chief Executive is male, for example, then you might say dear sir, or you could say dear sir or madam, to whom it may concern. And as always, when you've written the greeting, you must put a comma after it and leave a line. We do not continue writing here. Now, my second step to success today is one you'll probably remember from the structure that I recapped at the beginning of the lesson. Reason for writing. Within our reason for writing, we need to state why we are penning this letter to Canada Goose. So, as discussed, I'm writing to Canada Goose because I'm not happy about the way they treat coyotes when they produce their Canada Goose coats. I'm also not happy about how they treat the geese and the ducks. In general, their treatment of animals is cruel and inhumane, and that's the thing that I'm most angry about, I suppose. Unhappy isn't a strong enough word. So remember, we're writing really formally and we're precisely choosing our language too. That means when we write formally, as discussed yesterday, in standard English, using the correct grammar and punctuation. So let's start off by saying, I am writing. I could say I am writing to you because I wish to express my concerns, or I am writing to you because I have grave concerns about the way you treat animals. Or, as I said there, you might say I am writing to express my concerns, and that's what I'm going to go with. I am writing to express my concerns. And express my concerns is a really formal way of saying I am writing to tell you something that I'm not happy about. I am writing to express my concerns about. Summarise for me, what am I concerned about? Absolutely, I'm concerned about the way Canada, or I'm concerned about the way coyotes are treated. Now let's think of some really emotive language here. How could we describe the treatment of coyotes? Excellent, inhumane or cruel. Brilliant. That kind of language is going to make the reader sit up and take notice. I am writing to express my concerns about the treatment, the inhumane treatment. And I'm actually going to say animals because when I go into the detail, when I detail the problem further later on in the letter, I want to actually allude to the fact that geese are also not treated well. The inhumane treatment of animals when there's lots of inhumane treatment of animals in the world, and Canada Goose isn't responsible for all of it, so I need to be really specific, and I need to say in the production, that means in the making of, in the production of Canada Goose coats. Or you could say during the manufacturing process or during the production process of Canada Goose coats. Let's read back and check that I've really made it clear why I'm writing. I am writing to express my concerns about the inhumane treatment of animals in the production of Your, I'm going to include the word your there because that's a direct address to the reader that will make them feel responsible in the production of your Canada Goose coats. Now you can see here I've been quite general. I haven't went into too much detail about what happens these per coyotes because that will come further on in my letter. Initially, I just want to set out the broad problem of why I'm unhappy. Now, what has made me write today? So what's triggered me to write? Triggered letter. Triggered means caused. So what's caused me to pick up my pen and write this letter today? Is it that I've recently read an article about these coyotes? Or is it that I've recently received one as a gift for Christmas perhaps? Or perhaps you've just recently become aware because of all the news headlines and that's what's caused you to feel so disgusted or horrified by this treatment. So what has caused you to write this letter today? Well, I'm going to pretend that I've just received one of these for Christmas because they're quite a common Christmas gift since they can keep you very warm. So I'm going to start off with a subordinating clause and I'm going to say, after having received one of your coats for Christmas, after having received, I'm going to say the word received instead of the word got because it's much more formal. After having received one of your coats for Christmas. That is not a sentence by itself, that is a subordinating clause, so I need to now finish it off with a main clause that makes sense by itself. So how did you feel when you received one of your coats or one of these coats for Christmas and perhaps you realised, maybe you read more into it after you received one? How did you feel after you realised these coyotes were being terribly treated? What adjectives could you use, powerful adjectives, emotive language, could you use to describe how you felt? Absolutely, you were horrified to find out. You were disgusted to find out. Maybe you were shocked, appalled. Any of that language is really, really powerful. After having received one of your coats for Christmas, I'm going to go with I was horrified to find out. So I'm imagining that I received one of these coats, and as you normally do, you would read the leaflets, and perhaps I realised from looking at the label that there was lots of real coyote fur in there, and I googled it. So what did I find out? I was horrified to find out the way in which I'm going to use the word brutal here, being really careful with my language choices, the brutal way in which these animals, how could we describe these animals to make the reader feel bad and feel guilty for what they have done? Remember, that's what we're trying to get them to do. We're trying to get the reader to take action, to stop selling these coats, to stop treating the coyotes in this way. And the only way they'll do this if they see our point and if they feel sorry for the animals. What's a word you could use to put in front of the animals there? I was horrified to find out the brutal way in which these something animals, absolutely, you could say helpless animals, or defenceless animals, or precious animals even, in which these helpless animals. Now, up here at the start of my letter, I said they received inhumane treatment, so I need to be careful not to repeat that point in the same words. So I'm going to say, I was horrified to find out the brutal way in which these helpless animals have been killed. Have been killed during the manufacturing process. And manufacturing means making. During the manufacturing. Or you might even say finish this off first, during the manufacturing process. Or you could even say, the brutal way in which these helpless animals have been killed for no apparent reason. Because there are other companies that do kill animals, albeit in a much more ethical way. So there are possibly other ways around this if they wanted to use real animal fur so badly. Okay, we are going to read through and check that we've kept this as formal as possible, and I'm also going to highlight great vocabulary choices that I know are going to have an impact on the reader's emotions. I know if I can tap into their emotions, then they're more likely to see my point of view. To whom it may concern, that is certainly an example of a formal opener. So I'm going to give that a double tick. I am writing to express my concerns about the inhumane treatment. Inhumane treatment, I'm going to put a little bubble around inhumane because that's a really effective vocabulary choice. Inhumane treatment of animals in the production of your Canada Goose coats. And remember, Canada Goose is the name of the coat, so each letter needs a capital letter. So that's my reason for writing. I'm writing to you because I'm concerned about how you're treating animals when you make this product. And what's made me write this letter? Well, after having received one of your coats for Christmas, subordinating clause, how did I feel? I was horrified to find out. Horrified, I'm going to put a bubble around that because that's an example of a really effective word choice as well. If you said, I was surprised to find out, then the reader isn't going to be too affected by that because surprise isn't really a negative emotion. And they're not necessarily going to think that if you're surprised that you'd stop buying the coats. To find out, find out. Let's put green under find out because I think it's slightly too informal. Can you think of another way of saying find out more formally? Yes, discover is what I was thinking, but you perhaps have got lots of other suitable ideas. I was horrified to discover the brutal way. Brutal is another effective vocabulary choice. The brutal way in which, the little phrase in which is really important because it adds formality to your writing as well. Remember, complex sentences are another feature of formal writing. The brutal way in which these helpless animals have been killed during the manufacturing process. And the manufacturing process is a formal way of saying when they were made. Okay? Right, that is our introduction to our letter. You can see it's not very long and you have 3 clear sections: the greeting, the reason for writing, and what's made you pen this letter today. I hope you've enjoyed beginning your complaint letters, and I am very much looking forward to seeing all of your outstanding work on Seesaw as always. Please take time to read through it, check for punctuation, and make sure you've written really formally before you upload. Have a great rest of the day, Year 6. Bye-bye.